Hello, hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is time for another round of Beat the Backlog, a vlog series where I attempt to get the number of pieces of paper in this jar from up here to down here by the end of 2024. Essentially, in this jar is a piece of paper with the name of every single book that I own, because I can't be trusted to pick new things to read that are actually on my shelves rather than buying things and borrowing things from the library. In here, we've got physical books and we've got Kindle books as well, because I do tend to read a mix of both. And in this vlog series, I pick a random number of pieces of paper from this jar, read a random number of books in the vlog, and tell you my thoughts about them as we go. Now for this video, I've already done the pull from the jar because I finished my previous book last night and I wanted to get straight into the next one, so I'll include that clip here. So we got The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. This is obviously the author who wrote Fourth Wing, but she wrote a lot of contemporary romance first. I think this one is more of a like military long distance kind of romance or pen pal or something, but the blurb says, "One final letter, his last wish, go and be with her. Beckett." If you're reading this, well, you know the last letter drill. You made it, I didn't. Get off the guilt train because I know if there was any chance you could have saved me, you would have. I need one thing from you. Get out of the army and get to Tahereh. My little sister Ella is raising the twins alone. She's too independent and won't accept help easily, but she has lost our grandmother, our parents, and now me. It's too much for anyone to endure. It's not fair. So if I'm gone, that means I can't be there for Ella. I can't help them through this. But you can. So I'm begging you, as my best friend, go take care of my sister, my family. Please don't make her go through it alone. Ryan. I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling a little bit emotional having read that. Sorry if I just like have a bit of a moment. Wow, that letter kind of got me in the feels. But anyway, I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm really tired. But anyway, that is the first book that I'm going to be reading. I'm guessing from that letter, it's a brother passes away in the military, sends a letter to his best friend saying, hey, I need you to go and look after my sister, and a romance sort of blossoms from that, or at least that's what I'm hoping. Apparently Rebecca Yarros in her contemporaries is known for just like absolutely destroying her readers, so fingers crossed, I guess. I'm in for an emotional turmoil. I'm a little bit miffed that I couldn't find an audiobook version of this book because I have a lot of life admin to do today and I really wanted to be able to listen to this and do all that stuff at the same time, though to be honest, I have no impulse control, so I'm probably just gonna hop onto like Amazon and get a few credits for Audible and listen to the audiobook that way, because I couldn't find it on Scribd or anything like that, so don't hate my Amazon purchases. But anyway, my morning's been filled with editing. It is the last day off that I've got before heading back to work after the big Christmas break, so it's officially the last day of freedom. I'm going to enjoy it by finishing off this editing, reading this book. Hopefully I can get a lot of it smashed out today, and yeah, I'll take you along for the ride with me on the latest Beat the Backlog vlog. Hey, I am now 30% into The Last Letter and this book is destroying me. It is so emotional. I don't even know, I can't even get my thoughts together about what I think about this book. It's so emotional. There is a lot more going on in the story than the letter in the blurb suggested. That letter about Beckett, the male main character, being sent to support Ella was definitely one part of it, and that part of it is very much hitting me in the feels because he's not telling her that he's the one that she was writing to for a really long time, and in that period of time he had fallen in love with her and she has no idea who she is. So seeing all of that from his perspective and all that pining and how emotional it is definitely hitting me in the feels, as well as the grief that both of them are facing because of her brother and his like brother, by like adopted brother basically, having died at the beginning of the story. They're both just dealing with that grief. But there's another element to the story that I'm not going to spoil, but it wasn't mentioned in the blurb. I think for anyone who wants to pick up this book, do check out the trigger warnings because it's something that I think definitely should be warned about before people read it. And I wish I kind of had been warned about it. It's so emotional and it's adding another layer to this story that's really making me tearful. And there was the moment that I just stopped reading just now. It was, I have no words. I genuinely thought I was gonna burst into tears. Like I'm tearing up just thinking about it because it was like this really beautiful, heartbreaking moment. And now that that's happened, I'm thinking that the whole romantic development is gonna go a little bit further now. And on the romantic development, they're definitely having sort of physical chemistry there between them, in the sense that they both find each other incredibly attractive. And there is sort of emotional chemistry there as well, now that Ella is finally opening herself up to actually allowing Beckett into her life and her family's life. There's a really cute dog involved that used to be an army service dog, is now retired, and she's sassy in a little bit of a way, which I really love. Her name's Havoc, but then she's also like so sweet and adorable. She's a little lab, and I'm just imagining like the floppy ears and the whole thing. Sorry if you can hear the wind like gailing outside. It is seriously super windy where I am right now. But anyway, this whole read so far, the summing up of what I want to say is just, it's incredibly emotional. It's really hitting me in the feels, and I'm flying through it because I'm loving every minute of it. It's so addictive, and I just want these characters to be together so badly because I know that they would be perfect for each other. And the writing's amazing, you know, it's really just, it's getting me. I think this is gonna be a 5-star read for me, which I totally could have predicted because I loved Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I was hoping the contemporary romance would continue with that love. But yeah, nothing planned. I've done my chores for the day, so I'm just gonna sit on the couch and read. So I'll update you in a little bit. The wind is blowing outside like a gale force wind, and I'm just about to start crying because this little kid in this book that I'm reading is looking at the situation around him and saying, it should be me, it should be me, it's not fair, it should be me. In the sense that he wants to take on the pain of the people around him. There's just something so innocent and incredible about that is making me really sad. So I thought I'd turn on the camera and share it with you because far out, my god. That was a really, really hard line to read. And if this book gets any sadder, I'm gonna burst into tears. I don't burst into tears with contemporary romances, and it's hit even more because right before this moment was such a beautiful romantic moment between the couple, and now you have this little boy coming up to them being like, it should be me, it should be me, it's not fair, I would take on this pain. And that just really hit me in the feels. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to reading now and try not to bawl my eyes out. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Apologies for the like bird's eye shot that we are going with right now, but I am here. It is Wednesday morning. I am just about to finally start work after the big Christmas break, and I wanted to come to you with an update for The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros, which is that I finished it. I read it in an absolute mad flurry yesterday, hence why there are a severe lack of updates on that book in this video, and I gave it 5 stars. My reaction to it is, Rebecca Yarros, you are a mean person, because she lulled me into such a false sense of security by the end of this book that when those last like 50 or so pages hit and the events that happened in those last 50 or so pages, they destroyed me and I cried. This book, it destroyed me. And that's ultimately kind of why I gave it 5 stars, because if a book gets me to that place, if a book destroys me in that way, then that's a sign that I've just read an incredible book that I've become very emotionally attached to, and that means I love it. But anyway, last night after reading it, I was borderline speechless after reading it. I didn't really know what to say, but now that I've got my thoughts in order a little bit more, I will say, one, that the characters felt so real. The way they acted, the way they reacted to situations, the way they were built, the way the romance was built, the way the family dynamic was built, all of it felt very realistic, very real, which made me even more attached to them. I loved, obviously, that the romance got such a significant portion of the plot, but the other side that I really, really loved was that the family dynamics got an equally significant portion of this story. There was a whole element of the story that was really focused on building the family, and at one point the romance even took a bit of a backseat to it, which I didn't expect to enjoy all that much, but I think in terms of building out this story and making these characters believable and their intentions believable, that needed to happen, and it made me feel so much more connected to them because you get time with those kids and you feel really invested in their story and their struggles, as well as the broader romance itself. And then as for the romance, it was just It was incredible. It was a very, very slow moving romance, which made sense because both characters were dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of guilt and a lot of, I think, self-hatred at times as well. But there were these brief moments and you got both of their POVs, and both of their POVs made sense to be in there, so that in those brief moments where you get little payoffs, it was stomach fluttering, butterfly inducing kind of feelings, and then the big payoff was just so worth it. Like, it doesn't come for quite a while in the book, but it was so worth it. I think there was a lot of foreshadowing earlier in the book, and I'm not sure if it was on purpose or coincidence, but it definitely made the end of the book feel even more heartbreaking. And I loved the peace and the serenity of the atmosphere, of the setting, of the writing. It was a high stakes story, but it wasn't drama and angsty. So there were moments where it was just quiet, like it was a quiet story. And then obviously there were those high tension moments. I think all in all, it felt like just a really charming, quiet story. And I don't know if that's how it's intended, but that's at least how it felt to me. There was lots of peace and serenity in those moments. It wasn't angsty. It was just about building this family, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I have no other words other than I loved this book, and I'm so, so glad that it got picked. After finishing it, obviously, I went and did another draw. I hope I filmed it. I'm pretty sure I did, and if I did, I'll put the clip here. So the next book is The Christmas Letter by Emily Stone. So it seems we're going for a sort of letter theme in this story. As for what it's about, I'm gonna find the blurb on the Kindle version so that I can just read that to you. I am about 20 pages or so into it, but not enough to really be able to tell you what it's about. So the blurb says, "A journey to love starts with a letter. Every December, Holly writes to a stranger who is spending Christmas alone, and every year she receives a letter from another lonely person. Being a part of the Dear Stranger Club is a tradition she has come to treasure, because ever since the accident 3 years ago, Holly has spent Christmas alone. Usually the letters go unanswered. That's the point of the club. No one knows who you are, so you can write what's in your heart. But this year, when Holly gets a letter from an older woman, Emma, that changes. Not only is the letter full of a grief Holly can relate to, but also Emma mentions a place that Holly knows all too well. Holly knows she has to find the woman who wrote the letter, because maybe by helping someone else with their loneliness, she can fix her own. Holly sets out to find the estranged grandson Emma is desperate to reconnect with. But when she tracks down handsome and successful Jack, he has his own reasons to not want to be found." I've only read 20 pages or so, like I said, so I don't really have any thoughts to share on this book so far, other than the main character, Holly, is definitely falling into that quirky klutzy category. She's an artist. She's got not a twin sister. She's got a sister who's 4 years older who kind of looks like a twin, and she's just had a chance encounter with a man named Jack who she spilled coffee all over, and he gave her some cards that had some beautiful artwork printed on them, and they got talking over their sort of mutual love of art, it seems. There's been a moment where I presume the Jack in the blurb is the Jack that she's connected to, and now that I've read the blurb, which I didn't read before I started reading this book, I'm really, really worried about what this accident is, because I feel like this book, if it's what I think it is gonna destroy me before I'm even halfway through. But anyway, it is now coming up on 7:30. I start work at 8 and I wanna get a little bit of editing done before I start work. So I am going to sign off here and get some editing done, and I will check in with you later on when I've read a little bit more of this book. Hey, you can probably see the kink in my hair from having it in a ponytail all day. Isn't that just gorgeous on another level? But anyway, I'm in here because I just finished my lunch break. I went for a quick walk to go and get myself a dirty chai. It's my first time ever having a dirty chai, and I found that I really like it. So we've awakened a new addiction in me, which is probably dangerous because it's not exactly the cheapest drink. But anyway, I also got a little bit of reading done on my lunch break, and I am now 124 pages into The Christmas Letter. So I'm about 34% in, and I'm just feeling kind of blah about it. Like, I'm not disliking it. It's an easy read. I'm getting through it really quickly. There's an emotional side to it in terms of like reconnecting this family. The main female character, whose name I can't even remember, has reunited with the grandson and just gone out on like a brief date. And for me, I don't know, there was not really any chemistry That date that they went on just felt really awkward. I'm not particularly invested in the story. What I thought was happening with this whole accident isn't what I thought it was, so there's an added level of complication here that's making me dislike some elements of the plot and some characters specifically. So I've decided that what I'm gonna do is give this book to 50%, and if I'm still feeling this kind of way where I just kind of don't really care either way whether or not I actually finish this, I'm gonna softy an effort for now and maybe bring it up again next Christmas. So I don't know, maybe I just went into this hoping it would be something different to what it is, but it's just not really making me feel anything. And I am very much of the opinion with this whole beat the backlog process that if I'm reading books in my backlog and that I'm just not feeling any kind of way about them and they're just not good, not bad, I just don't care, then I'm gonna move on, because I've got too many books on the backlog to really spend time dwelling on books that I'm just not enjoying. For now though, my lunch break is over, so I need to jump back into work. I've got a call in like 20 minutes, so I'm gonna go do that and read again once my work is finished for the day, and then I'll update you at the end of the day on whether or not I actually continued with this read or not. Hey, excuse me here in my dressing gown with my hair up in a tight bun, looking super fabulous as always. I just wanted to check in to say I'm giving up on the Christmas letter because my interest continued to wane. The romance just felt awkward and underdeveloped, even to the point that I was up to 50% through the book. Emotional sort of side of things was really bugging me because it meant that there were a lot of characters that I thought were acting poorly, and I just couldn't get behind it. And the main characters just started to bug me as well. It means that we are going to be picking a new book from the jar. So let's open up the jar, do this one live on camera rather than filmed at a different time, and open up this little piece of paper. Oh God, we've opened the Holy Grail, or well, whatever the opposite of Holy Grail is, of cards. So you might have seen in my last vlog, I mentioned that sometimes when I have a series that I want to read, I won't just put one book on a slip of paper, I'll put the whole series on the slip of paper. So I did that for King of Battle and Blood and Queen of Myth and Monsters, and the one that I've just opened is probably the longest series that I own. And that is, hopefully you can see this, please excuse my horrific nails, but that is the Shatter series, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books that I'm about to read. This vlog is officially gonna be split now. From this point on, I'm gonna read as many of these books as I can without making this vlog a million hours long. And we're probably gonna have a second parter to this slip of paper, which does the rest of the books in the series, because I'm not gonna read 9 books in one vlog. So I'm gonna go and get Shatter, read you the blurb, and we're gonna get started on this behemoth of a beat the backlog. Okay, so we are starting with Shatter by Tahereh Mafi, and the back says, a fragile teenage girl is held captive, locked in a cell by the re-establishment, a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world. But Juliet is no ordinary teenager. One touch from her can kill. The re-establishment wants to use her as a weapon, but Juliet has other plans. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovered the strength to fight back and to find a future with the one person she thought she'd lost forever. Luckily, I have this entire series on audiobook, so this will be easier in that sense because I can just listen to them. I also remember it being much more enjoyable in that sense because there are whole sections of this story that are crossed out, and the way that that is played on the audiobook is like an actual scratching noise, and then there are whole sections where she repeats herself over and over and over again, and apparently that's much more enjoyable to read on the audiobook as well. This is officially the beginning of the end of this vlog, and then the next Beat the Backlog vlog is not going to start with a draw, it's going to start with a continuation of the rest of this series. You're now signed up for this vlog and the next one. Apologies for that, but let's kick straight in with Shatter and I will give you an update when I'm part of the way through this book. Hey, we are going back for the overhead shot using my desktop as lighting again, and I'm here with an update on Shatter which is to say that I am 50 pages into the book, and The nostalgia is real. I'm remembering just how much I loved this book the first time that I read it, and I'm having such a good time. I continue to love the writing style and how it crosses out sections and she repeats herself, and the reliance on numbers, and you can really see the impact of her having been in solitude for such a long time. I also love the innocence of the main character in a lot of ways, despite all the horrors that she's faced or the abandonment that she's faced, and how she wants to trust people, how she wants to be able to trust everyone but can't because of everything she's gone through. I'm just really, really, really enjoying this book so far. I don't have much more to say than that. This is a very, very brief update because, again, I'm only 50 pages in. I've also just bought a reading spreadsheet by Just Ali. I think her name is on Etsy, but Hardback Hoarder, I think is her channel on YouTube. And it is the most intense reading spreadsheet I've ever downloaded. Like, I used to use Corpile, but I wanted to give this one a go because I found that I wasn't actually using the Corpile rating system of like characters, atmosphere, writing, all that sort of stuff for my reviews anymore. I just wasn't going that in depth in terms of analysis, and I found that like some books it just wasn't relevant to comment on logic, for example, or intrigue or that sort of thing, because those just weren't as important elements of the story, or they didn't make sense to have them. Like, you can't comment on logic if the story is inherently an illogical book dealing with people making illogical decisions. This spreadsheet is a little bit more up my alley in that you just give it a general rating. There's no like proper full analysis that you have to do, but it just records a lot more information so that you can track a lot of different things way, way more. So I've been playing with that. I've been using all the different tabs to track all the books that I own, the upcoming releases, all these sorts of things. I'll put a link to it in the comments down below, because if you love tracking your books and you haven't seen this spreadsheet, then you really, really should check it out because it's amazing. It has everything you could possibly need, and if it doesn't have what you need, then I guarantee you that there is another page in the spreadsheet that you can repurpose to be exactly what you need. Anyway, that is my brief advertisement for this particular spreadsheet. I'm gonna get back to work now, and I will update you in a little bit when I've read more of this after my lunch break, and yeah, we'll chat later. Hey, it is officially the end of the vlog, and I once again cannot be stuffed to dry my hair today, so we're coming in like this. And some reading has been done. A lot of reading has been done. Not only did I finish Shatter Me, I then read both novellas in Unite Me, as well as Unravel Me. So 3 books were read since I last updated you guys, or 2.5 basically. They all got 4 stars, with Fracture Me being the only outlier. That's the second novella in this bind up, Unite Me. That one got 4.5 stars purely because I had Juliet's journal at the end, and that was probably the most poetic and beautiful thing I've ever read. But let's talk about my reviews. So we'll start with Shatter Me. Shatter Me I gave 4 stars, and as always with this story, I love the writing style. It really, really sings for me because of those scratching notes, because of the repetition, because you can really see on the page the hysteria, the mania that is inside Juliet's mind as she's trying to deal with everything she's gone through, the isolation. I love the way it introduces the world. I love the way it introduces the cool characters in the series. I mean, this series is really the introduction of like what I thought was a dystopian kind of fantasy book is more a sort of superhero vibes kind of story, and this beginning book really introduces the idea, and I really enjoyed that. I like the character development in this story in terms of Juliet. I think that she doesn't change too much. She does still stay quite trusting and naive, but she comes into her own in terms of her strength and her knowledge of her abilities, and she begins to, I think, hate herself a little bit less, which is always nice to see. So 4 stars for Shatter Me. I then went and read Destroy Me, which is the first novella in this series, and that is the novella following Warner. And I think I am very, very much in agreement with the people that say that you can't just read the main books, you have to read the novellas, because there is so much character development that happens in Warner's novella. You begin to understand his motivations a bit more. You begin to see the full picture behind situations that he put her through in Shatter Me that kind of explain things a little bit. Don't get me wrong, you don't come out of the novella loving him, but you understand him a bit more, and it, I think, opens up relationship development between him and Juliet that never would have been possible without the novella. I then went and read Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi, and this one was definitely definitely slower paced in terms of the plot and that sort of thing, but it was very much about building the world and building the rebellion more so than building characters, building sort of magic system or any kind of plot development. Like I said, you get a massive introduction to the rebellion. The writing style of crossing out things as Juliet's thinking them stays, but it's very much so less self-hatred kind of crossing out. In Shatter Me, most of the crossing out was done because she was hating on herself and then she'd cross things out or she was doubting herself. This one, it's more about her sort of desires and the things that she doesn't want to admit to herself about what she wants. Those are what she's crossing out. The secrets that she's trying to hide from herself and everybody else, and I thought that was interesting in terms of her character development. You also get relationship development between her and Warner and as well between her and Adam, which I think was really interesting and unexpected. But I will say that logic dies a little bit in this story. There are a lot of moments that happen that make no sense and would never happen. Like, you just can't understand why characters would make the decisions that they did. So this one got 4 stars, but I think it was a low 4 stars for me. But then I went back into this book for the second novella, which is Fracture Me, and that is the one that got 4.5 stars. It was so interesting to see Adam's character develop because this one does follow him primarily in the events that happen at the end of this book. And it really makes you understand, I guess, why him and Juliet worked at the beginning of Shatter Me and why they kind of stopped working by the time Unravel Me came around. Because the woman that he met at the beginning of Shatter Me is very different to the woman that she became, and I don't think he was willing to really see that growth. So understanding a bit more about his character was really, really important in this novella. Again, you need to read these novellas because particularly in this one, a really big series changing event happens at the end of it, and you need to know that that's happening. I'm sure it'll be covered in the next book, but it's really, really important to understand that from all sides, and it was a really, really tense moment. But then of course you get Juliet's journal at the end of this book, and it is mostly just recapping things that you've already seen throughout the entire series, passages you've already read, but seeing them combined all together and really facing it all at once, I think was even more interesting because there's no escaping it. You're not getting any outside perspectives, you're just witnessing the sort of mania that she was experiencing in her mind. And like I said, it was the most poetic, beautiful thing that I've ever read. You can't help but get into the rhythm and the cadence, and they have such beautiful rhythm and cadence, the sentences and the structure of it. It's just an incredibly written piece of work, piece of journal entries. So again, would recommend reading this bind up and making it through to Juliet's journal. Don't be detracted by the fact that you've already read it because it's different when you see it all bound up. So those are the, I guess, 4 books that I read at the end of this vlog since I last updated you. As you know, I picked the behemoth of all behemoths when it came to my Beat the Backlog jar. So I will be starting the next Beat the Backlog vlog finishing off this series, and that'll probably be the only thing covered in that Beat the Backlog vlog, unless I do what I've done here and just read a bunch and update you all at once on all of them. But anyway, that is the end of Beat the Backlog vlog number 3. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I read in this vlog, what you thought of them, if you agreed with my thoughts on them, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super, super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!